Welcome to this exciting session for security service providers interested in LimaCharlie's SecOps Cloud Platform. My name is Christopher Luft, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this session. As one of the co-founders of LimaCharlie, I'm passionate about the transformative power that the SecOps Cloud Platform has for the service provider space. And joining me to offer insight and expertise is Eric Capuano, our Director of Training and Product Enablement. Throughout the ensuing conversation, we will lay out how the SecOps Cloud Platform enables security service providers like you to deliver value to customers quickly and efficiently, all while building a business that can scale. Along with this, we will be talking about how the SecOps Cloud Platform can help you enhance your existing services or help you build your service business effortlessly without the need to maintain delicate open source stacks or make contractual commitments in order to access technological capabilities. Eric, it's great to have you here. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, Chris, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get on here and just share kind of my passionate position and thoughts about the way that this platform is reshaping the approach specifically for service providers that are building products, that are building services on top of, disjointed technology and all the issues that kind of brings. You know that I uniquely have a fair amount of experience with that, in that I have done that. I've built an MDR company and had to kind of wrestle with the many different paths that one can take from a technology standpoint. And it just makes me all that more excited to talk about the unique approach that the SecOps Cloud Platform brings, and just the friction that it removes from that entire service delivery sort of approach.
So we're expecting a lot of folks here who are new to LimaCharlie and the SecOps Cloud Platform. Let's kick things off with you helping everyone understand what the SecOps Cloud Platform is and how it's revolutionizing the world of security services. So let's start with what I think would be the most obvious question. What is the SecOps Cloud Platform?
Yeah, it's a pretty radically new idea. It's a very new concept. There's not really anything else out there that tries to tackle this particular problem. And what the SecOps Cloud Platform is as the name would imply, it's a cloud platform, just similar to various other cloud platforms that do exist for a broader set of use cases like AWS and Azure and GCP, right? And what's unique about those platforms is they are basically a collection of building blocks, that you can bring any idea, any product, concept, or any service, concept that you want to build out. And you could build it across these cloud platforms. It provides you all the building blocks, the necessary components in order to achieve your desired end goal. So the SecOps Cloud Platform is this exact same idea. However, the building blocks and the primitives, as we like to refer to them, are specifically geared towards a SecOps, use case, right? So all the things that security tooling needs in order to function, from log ingestion pipelines to detection and response engines, to the ability to run historical threat hunts. These are all our primitives that we expose in the cloud platform, so that you can sort of pick and choose exactly which pieces of this puzzle that you need, therefore unlocking the ability to build out whatever it is that you can imagine. Now, for a service provider specifically, what this means is all of the lower leverage items that you have to think about, the technology that makes this thing work, are no longer manual lifts that you have to kind of tackle and figure out on your own. Nobody's going out and buying servers and putting them in data centers anymore to build an application or to deliver a service, right? You're basically leasing this compute from a big cloud provider, and knowing that the management of that back end is no longer your concern, right? The less time we spend troubleshooting databases and log parsers and ingestion engines, the more time we can spend bringing the fight closer to the adversary, which is the sole purpose of managed security service providers, managed detection response providers, is finding adversaries and networks, not doing all the plumbing and the logistics of making sure that data is flowing and detections are detecting.
That's great. Let's take a step back for a minute and let's imagine a world without the SecOps Cloud Platform. So picture this, a practitioner with some deep technical skills and maybe their first customers lined up. What would that journey look like for that person today to get MSSP up and running, and what kind of challenges would they face?
Yeah, so you're saying a world without the SecOps Cloud Platform. I can speak directly to that, because when I began my journey as a service provider, LimaCharlie did not exist, right? And so we had to face into this. And there's a couple different avenues that you can take in a pre-LimaCharlie world, which is either spend a lot of money to become basically a VAR or a partner of some big product vendor, right? Whether that's Splunk or Alien Vault or QRadar or whatever. And essentially what you're doing is you're selling this solution to your customers, hoping that it's the right solution, hoping it's the one that they want, that's compatible with their environment. And you're kind of now at the mercy of the license model of this tool, this solution that you're selling. The other issue that brings is at the end of the day, that upstream, product vendor that you're selling a solution for, at the end of the day, their goal is to grow their market base as well. And where that gets really tricky and interesting is when they decide one day that they also want to get into service delivery, right? They want to start now delivering managed services, which obviously is a direct competition with what you're trying to do using their product. And so it gets really tricky, right? Where you're almost feeding your competitor at a certain point. And also you're kind of at the mercy of that competitor who is charging a premium for this product because their desired end customer is also your end customer. So, they're maybe giving you a small cutoff of the margin in order for you to make a profit on that. But, you're kind of at their mercy on that. That's not really the way that their model was originally designed. So there's a lot of issues with that, getting locked into that particular vendor's ecosystem, whether your customers like it or hate it, like there's no real changing it. And then, if you later decide that you want to switch solutions, that's a whole other engineering sort of nightmare, right? But then there's the other approach that you could take, and this is actually one that I chose, is we decided to build out our own security stack using open source tools, open source platforms, right? Which has some advantages, right? The advantage is a very, very low initial cost, right? And I say initial because that's really what it is, right? The cost to begin on an open source stack is the least expensive route you could possibly take, because obviously there's no cost associated with the software. Now, there's still going to be a cost associated with infrastructure, right? Both realized cost of the infrastructure provider, but then also the sneaky, unexpected cost of maintaining all of that, right? Nobody really stops to think about what is the total cost of ownership of an open source solution. It may seem free when you get started, but pretty soon you get to realize that, hey, this open source tool that you're not paying for, that means you're not getting support for it either. So when things break, when things need optimization, like it's DIY, it's figure it out. And there may be solid documentation for the platform. There may not be. There may be some Slack or Discord channel you can join to get help. There may not be, right? And so it's very much fend for yourself, which is not really as much a problem in the earliest days. When you're just building out the service and you're standing on top of these open source solutions, it seems like in the early days, hey, this is going to work. We're going to make this happen. And then what happens is you start to grow, you start to scale. And that's where the cracks really start to show, because you realize that, okay, wait, this solution that worked when we had 1,000 managed endpoints was fine. Now we've got 5,000, now we've got 10,000, and now it's not holding up under the weight very well anymore. And without some premium support or additional capabilities this tool simply doesn't have, we're now worried about continuing to grow because at some point we might tip this thing over, right? So there's a lot of kind of, I'd say, pros and cons of either of these approach, but sadly, the cons both work against the service provider in a pretty significant way, right? Being shackled to a product vendor who at any point in time is happy to cannibalize your business versus being shackled to an open source solution, which is going to take a lot more care and feeding than a lot of people think. And therefore, the total cost of ownership ends up being substantially higher than they forecasted and budgeted for. Not to mention, the open source route oftentimes means you're not going to have specific capabilities that you need to be a proper MDR provider, right? You'll have some, but not all. And then what you find yourself doing is duct taping more of these solutions together in order to try to get a more comprehensive capability. And that just magnifies the complexity and therefore that total cost of ownership issue, right? So again, not knocking any one of these paths. I'm just saying, I've been down the road, and as a service provider with a business to build and scale, these were really tricky situations to end up in.
Yeah, and I've heard our customers talk about both pain points, big, supposedly trusted vendors eventually coming after their customers, and then people who went the open source route, who later find that they are even scared to take on clients of a certain size when that opportunity comes along because they don't know that their infrastructure can scale. So it's a really sad moment to have to turn down those kind of opportunities, because it should be a point where your business grows, but you also don't want it to be the thing that tanks things.
And Chris, I have personally lived both of those situations, right? So this isn't anecdotal. Like, I have been in both of these situations where I did have a product vendor that I was working with reach out directly to a customer and say, hey, look, we'll cover this at a fraction of the cost of what you're paying now, which was true if you're just looking at the dollars of it, right? But what wasn't as obvious is the managed service that they were coming in and competing with was only a fraction of the coverage that we were providing. But the problem is, customer doesn't realize that. They don't realize that they're giving up a substantial amount of coverage. And that's a predicament you really don't want to have to be in with your customer, is explaining, hey, look, yes, we are more expensive than this product's managed offering, but it's because all they're offering to manage is that one product, right? A proper MSSP is going to cover a lot more than an individual product. But again, it's a conversation you'd like to avoid having if you can. And so not bringing a wolf into the hen house, if you will, is kind of the ideal state. But I've also been on the other side of that, being on the open source stack, where you should be excited about any time a large prospect comes your way. You're having a conversation with a very large potential customer, and you're excited because this is going to be a great growth opportunity, continuing to deliver an exceptional service to a prestigious organization. But now in the background, you're saying, what if our stack can't handle this? Right? That's the last thing I want to be thinking about as well when we're talking about growing and bringing on additional customers, is, can our existing security solution scale to this size reliably without there being a high likelihood of a possible outage or otherwise delivery impact, right?
So I guess, do you have any thoughts on how in such a competitive landscape with tight margins, everybody's competing for business, how does the SecOps Cloud Platform address the concern of cost, particularly when it comes to things like an EDR?
In the most elegant ways. And I'll add some substance to that. So another one of the big issues that as a service provider you encounter when you're dealing with large upstream product vendors, right? If I wanted to go and just be a CrowdStrike, kind of VAR and use that as my tool or what have you, a lot of these big product vendors, they deal in large long contracts with set thresholds and things of that nature. So as a service provider, there's a couple of conditions that I would have to meet. First of all, I would have to meet or exceed consistently a certain sales volume every year, or I could lose my partnership with that vendor, right? Which, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, mind you, of course, as a service provider, I do want my business to grow. So I would love to be able to hit those thresholds, but I don't want to have to worry that if I don't, they're going to pull the rug out from under me. And now I suddenly can no longer sell their solution or use this technology, right? So that's one big issue. But then the other issue is, these guys won't do business with me unless I'm willing to sign 1, 2, 3-year contracts at set minimums, right? So if I onboard a customer with 1,000 endpoints, I'm going to have to fork out the money for 1,000 licenses for this product. And I'm locked in, right? I'm contractually locked in for the next year. But deity forbid that customer no longer is a customer before that contract term ends. Like, I'm still paying for that, right? Like, I still hold those licenses. And it's, the other really unfortunate thing about it is, I've got to pre-buy these licenses in advance, whether or not I end up using all of them. So you really have to start getting as laser precision as possible with, okay, well, the customer may potentially grow up to 10, 20% per year. So we should overbuy just in case, because we don't want to have to go back into contract renegotiation with the product vendor. It's just messy. It's messy. And so what I love about the SecOps Cloud Platform is that it behaves exactly like most cloud platforms that folks are accustomed to, right? There are no contracts or commitments to go and spin up a handful of EC2 instances at AWS. And the beautiful thing about it is, I don't have to overcommit what I think I might need. I'll just spin up what I need. And when I don't need it, I just spin it down and then I stop paying for it. And the SecOps Cloud Platform behaves exactly this way. You only provision what you need. And the moment you no longer need it, you spin it down. You're no longer being billed for it, right? So it's the most fair, the most ethical way of doing it. And then as a service provider, you benefit from the fact that I don't have to worry about a customer growing up or growing down because I'm able to move at that same speed, right? The customer onboard. If I have a customer that acquires another company and suddenly they've got another 28 to 30% more endpoints, no problem. We spin that up. Okay, then they no longer need coverage of those endpoints. Okay, no problem. I'll spin those right back down, right? I'm not shackled to any kind of long-term contract. And I know that I can predict my billing. I can predict my costs because it's all pure usage based, right? So it's a huge step in the right direction. It's a game changer.
So I suspect we probably covered a lot of these in the conversation we've had already, but if you had to be succinct and summarize what the main benefits are for people currently working at or building security service businesses using the SecOps Cloud Platform, what would they be?
Yeah, so off the top of my head, a couple of things that come to mind is the ability to completely streamline and optimize your delivery of security operations, right? Because one of the biggest issues I see service providers facing, even if they do have a set of tools that are generally working and doing the thing they're supposed to do, is that it's a set of tools. You have to now hire and train folks to be subject matter experts on 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 different tools. And in some cases more, especially for service providers that basically allow co-management or co-usage of existing security tooling at a customer location. It's impossible to scale that. Right? That's one of the hardest things to do as a service provider is commit to mastering many different types of technologies and softwares. So LimaCharlie, the SecOps Cloud Platform, enables you to just simply double down, go all in on, hey, look, we can master this one platform, which covers all the building blocks that we need here. And that's going to streamline, it's going to improve efficiency of our security operations, which is going to reduce the need for extra headcount, because now we don't need subject matter experts across many different platforms, right? Also, I'm no longer having to maintain detection rules and response actions and things like that in multiple different platforms, right? I can kind of focus in on this one capability or this one set of capabilities of the platform and master this, right? So streamlining operations is one big item that comes to mind. Another really awesome feature of the SecOps Cloud Platform is the enhanced visibility that your teams can gain, because we support ingesting telemetry from not only our own cross-platform EDR agent, but also all the various different cloud, SaaS, and otherwise telemetry streams that a security team needs. And you can bring all this into the same platform at pennies on the dollar what any other log ingestion or scene type capability would cost, right? A lot of folks really don't realize how advantageous our pricing model is. But when I kind of reiterate that, hey, look, on that endpoint agent, you can send unlimited telemetry from that endpoint. And we give you a year retention for a flat rate. It's $3 per month per endpoint. It's a game changer, right? There's no other platform that works this way. So the enhanced visibility comes from the fact that you no longer have to sort of pick and choose, well, which telemetry sources should we ingest? Which event logs should we ingest? Because if we bring them in, we bring all of them in, it's going to be cost prohibitive. We shouldn't have to make these decisions, right? We need all the visibility we can possibly get. So, increase that visibility by turning on all of those necessary log sources without worrying about being nickel and dimed by a throughput-based charge for your endpoints. And so anyway, you couple this and many other things together, really what it boils down to is you're not only to be able to become more security effective as a service provider, but you're able to be more efficient, which only translates into better margins, better sustainability, and the ability to continue growing that business.
Yep. Happy financials, happy business, happy employees, happy customers, right?
Indeed.
I feel like we've covered this one a little bit already, but I want to talk about how scalability can be such a big challenge for practitioners. Often security service providers run into trouble as things scale, which means that they're running into architectural problems at the worst time. When they're presented with the opportunity to grow, how does using the SecOps Cloud Platform to power your service business mitigate these issues and ensure smooth scaling?
There's kind of two ways to think about that. The one that I touched on briefly is the no kidding scalability of the technology, as far as how many how many customers can I manage on this thing? How many endpoints can I reliably manage on this thing, right? And that's a pain that we felt pretty intensely on our open source stack, right? Is there was definitely a point of it's getting very big, very expensive, and we're starting to worry about performance bottlenecks, and it just took a lot of manpower, a lot of time, a lot of resources to continue growing that stack reliably. And there was still always, the back of the mind fear that this thing could tip over at 2 a.m. and then what, right? Are we gonna miss important data? Are we gonna miss important, detections and things like that? So there's that aspect of scalability, but there's another aspect of it I don't think people think about as much, and it's the scalability of the processes themselves. Of okay, how quickly can we onboard new customers, right? How uniformly can we onboard new customers, right? That's scale of really the business workflow of building out that service and expanding to new customers. And so we solve both of these problems with a SecOps Cloud Platform, right? So from a just nuts and bolts, how many customers, how many endpoints, there is no limit. We're built on top of GCP. We are infrastructure as code, auto scaling, and all the magic, right? So whether you're onboarding 50 endpoints or 50,000 endpoints, it's a blip on the radar, right? For our platform, right? It's not something that's ever going to slow you down. You also don't even need to engage with anyone at LimaCharlie in order to do that. Like, that's the confidence we have in the platform is go ahead and spin it up. It's all self-serve, right? So you can provision as many organizations, as many endpoints as you need without worrying about tipping over some platform somewhere, right? But then from the business workflow aspect of it, we're really proud of this one as well. The fact that everything that we do is infrastructure as code, and that extends down to the SecOps Cloud Platform users themselves. So when our service provider customers work to automate provisioning of new organizations, provisioning of specific configurations to their tenants, it can all be done via an API. We even have CI/CD templates that allow them to do this at scale. So now you can get it down to a science, right? You spin up a new MSSP customer, you push a button, have it deploy that organization with all of your custom configurations, everything that you want it to be. And it took 30 seconds, right? And that's 30 seconds of back-end processes. You're not thinking about it. You're not worrying about it. It just happens, right? And so it's wildly more scalable in just about every important aspect that a platform should be.
All right. So many of the people watching probably have not heard, but the cat's out of the bag. At Google Next, LimaCharlie CEO and founder Maxime Lamoth-Broussard presented on stage and formally released our new bidirectional functionality. Eric, can you explain what this means and what the key benefits are?
Absolutely. So this has been a long time coming for us. It's something that we've been kind of working on here at the labs here at LimaCharlie for a little while, and it's probably one of the most exciting features that we've pushed out in quite some time. And really, to summarize what it is so we've always had bidirectionality as far as our own endpoint agent is concerned, right? So when you put that LimaCharlie EDR agent on a system, not only are you able to detect, but you're also instantly able to respond via our automated detection and response engine. And that's great. But we knew that the next hurdle, the next thing to get across is, well, if I'm bringing in telemetry from non-endpoints, right, like my O365 or my AWS or GitHub or Slack or what have you, I would sure also like to have that same instantaneous response capability on these platforms as well. Because obviously I don't have an agent on these things. These are SaaS applications, right? So that's exactly what we're bringing to the platform now, is the ability to not only detect, but also respond instantly to these other platforms, right? By just, essentially defining and executing predefined actions against the platform. So I get that really, really suspicious O365 login at 3 a.m. by the CFO from IRM. Okay, well, that's not something that should sit. That's not something that should sit and wait for an analyst to come along and make a decision, when we can have a detection response rule that's going to fire and say, let's go ahead and disable that account, right? Like, that just makes sense. We'll disable the account. Somebody can come along and triage and figure out what happened, but let's at least make sure there's no damage being done. So what it's really doing is it's putting a massive dent in the mean time to respond of non-endpoint related telemetry.
So how is this different from other vendor solutions today?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of different vendor solutions out there, but I will tell you that a lot of solutions that would be similar in nature to what we do with the SecOps Cloud Platform are generally treating this type of telemetry as second class, right? Yes, it'll bring in all the telemetry from all these different sources, but it's really just there for alerting. It's going to kick out detections and alerts, generally requiring either analysts to sit there and make determinations and then take actions, or requiring an additional expensive solution like a SOAR platform to go and take that telemetry and do something smart with it. So we're bringing those capabilities way closer to the telemetry itself, not requiring a consistent analyst intervention and also not requiring an additional bolt-on expensive solution to give you the capability of taking response instantaneously.
Is there other ways this enhancement will impact our service provider audience here?
Absolutely, right? Because I know that as a former service provider, that your customer environments are getting more and more complex every day. Many of your downstream customers are now hybrid environments, right? They operate in one or multiple clouds, right? Almost everyone's moving email to Exchange Online, and therefore O365. So really, what it brings you is the ability to mature your service delivery to say, we're not just defending the endpoints, but we're now defending where the other half of your business lives and where the rest of your data lives, right? And that's it's high in the mind of a lot of organizations out there that are shopping these type of services. Is, hey, look, yeah, back in the 90s, early 2000s, you could have defended my whole environment with an endpoint agent and we'd be set. That's no longer the case, right? Now, a good half of some of these businesses operate in the cloud. So having that same instant detection response capability in those platforms is going to be key.
Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. And thank you, Eric. Thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. Really appreciate you sharing your expertise and helping our audience understand the benefits of the SecOps Cloud Platform. Next up, I'll be speaking with Matt Bromley to discuss the SecOps Cloud Platform in the eyes of product builders. If you've ever considered building a security product, or are maybe currently building one, or just looking at ways to make your existing product more efficient, please come check out the discussion. The link to that session can be found in the description below, and we'll drop a link in the comments as well. We appreciate your time and hope you can see how the SecOps Cloud Platform is a secret weapon you need to provide better, more efficient services with higher margins than ever before. All of these sessions today are available on our website or on our YouTube channel. If you'd like to learn more about how the SecOps Cloud Platform can help you, please schedule a demo with our team. All the links are listed below in the description. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you at the top of the hour for the next session that's just starting in a moment.